actually excited about this week. We're going to do something a little different. I'm calling this episode From the Heart because I want to talk about my TBR list. I want to talk about what I've already read. All right, 2 books that I purchased for myself for my birthday. Oh, 3. See? If by Rudyard Kipling, and it is illustrated beautifully by Giovanni Manna. I should probably spend more time on If. I first heard it on Akira The Don. I don't know if you've heard of him. I got that from my husband. He does music behind like important words or somebody talking that he's learned something from. It's actually pretty interesting. But anyway, that's when I first heard If, which is kind of embarrassing because this poem's been around since like the 1900s. I think this poem is known as like Great Britain's #1 favorite poem. And I'm pretty sure all of you have heard of it. And so I'm just embarrassed that I actually heard about it through Akira The Don. So thanks, Akira The Don, for doing what you're meant to do so that I could learn about this poem, fall in love with it, and want to read this every day. The second book I bought myself for my birthday is called Journal of a Novel by John Steinbeck, and it's him writing to his editor and sharing letters while he's writing East of Eden. But I have not started this book, but I so badly want to. It looks so good. The third book I bought myself is actually something I listened to on audio and wanted to kind of reread it in print. And it's called The Signature of All Things by Elizabeth Gilbert, which I have reviewed several of her books. So I guess she's turning into one of my favorite authors. Okay, and then my fourth confession is I went off on a tangent of listening to podcasts about Bitcoin, which is not your typical thing, I know, but I got interested, and then one of the gentlemen on the podcast, Michael Saylor, talked about Standard Oil and Rockefellers. So I went down that rabbit hole of books. Not to mention, I have 2 books recommended from my husband that are on my TBR. One is The Stand by Stephen King. I also got that at the library. I already took it back because it's so big. I didn't get to it all. I started it. There are some Stephen King books out there that aren't really horror, but they get you thinking, and they're always well written. The second book my husband read on audio and recommended to me is The Mandibles by Lionel Shriver. Yeah, so I really want to read The Stand and Mandibles based on his recommendation. And then I have 2 more books from the library that I have been wanting to read. Me After You by Jojo Ma. Is it Ma's? And then Memoirs of a Geisha I haven't read yet, and I'm sure lots of you out there have read it. What do you think? It's still on my shelf from the library. Do I take it back or read it? Okay, and then my last confession is I do belong to a book club, which is part of my inspiration for starting my book reviews was, how do you decide on a book to pick? The pressure. And for that book club, I'm reading The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. And it's interesting so far, and it is the one I'm committed to because it has a deadline. All right, well, that's it. That's the list of my TBR and purchases and library stop-ins, and I'm going to try to stay away from the library and the bookstore and see if I can get some actual reading done. Thanks, everybody, for watching.